Hello Internet, I am an idiot, and since making lists is all the rage, I decided I'm gonna cash in on this. It's also the 31 Days of Manic Expression Halloween, so our theme's gonna be Scariest Scenes. Now this isn't some expertly compiled list by Stanford geniuses that are dictating what definitively is and isn't scary. Oh no! This is just an idiot's top 10 list of what scares the shit out of him.
Madness and stupidity.
Number 10. Shaun of the Dead. Shaun of the Dead was released in 2004 and was the first of the Cornetto trilogy. While it is a parody of zombie films, check out the tagline. A romantic comedy with zombies. They managed to produce what I consider one of the best zombie films ever made. Shit, depending on my mood, it's sometimes my favorite zombie movie, period. The scene that really cinched this opinion was the death of David, played by Dylan Moran. And he was the worst character in the movie. Not like he was a bad actor, his character was poorly written, he was just kind of a scumbag. And this movie just rips right into him. Literally. The gore effects are absolutely spectacular, the cast sell this scene, and despite the fact that it gets a little silly at the end with the limbs coming off, it's a truly scary moment. It's also a parody of the original Dawn of the Dead, and to be perfectly honest with you, I think they did it better. I may hate this character, but that's a bad way to go. Number 9. Ghost. This is another one of those films that people don't really think of when they're thinking scariest scenes because of, scenes like this. And this.
Big old tree and thousands of presents everywhere. Gas.
And of course, this scene. I got married to the widow next door. She's been married 7 times before, and everyone was Henry. Ghost was also a film that introduced Unchained Melody to an entirely new generation, won Whoopi Goldberg an Oscar, and is dripping in religious ideology. It also convinced me, for a brief moment, that hell was a very real place to consider.
You're dead, Willie.
This scene really scared the shit out of me when I was a kid, and gotta be honest, it's kind of creeping me out now, so I think I'm gonna change the audio a little bit, take the edge off.
Who's out of you?
We're just about to do a play about how much stealing hurts you deep inside. Come join us.
Yes,
Come
let's
on.
go.
You're here forever.
No!
The combination of clever visual effects and ominous groans makes this scene really scary. It's only used twice in the film, and I know it's kind of cheating, but honestly, these scenes are really fucking similar. It's a really cheap effect, but goddamn is it a fucking creepy one. Number 8. Jaws. Jaws is a film that has many very tense moments, but the scare factor goes off the charts when the film literally decides to throw the shark at us. In most movies, the scare factor actually goes down when the monster is shown, and despite this thing being a mechanical nightmare, it was very effective. Besides that, Quint had become kind of an enjoyable character by the end of the movie. At first you don't really like him, but as you start to learn more about him, he has a bizarre charm. And this is a horror movie, so at least one of these guys has to die. It was pretty clear that Brody was safe because the film centered around him, but Quint seemed too obvious because of how much of a dick he was. Until the Indianapolis speech.
So 1,100 men went in the war. 316 men come out. The Sharks took the rest June the 29th, 1945. Anyway.
He simultaneously became my favorite character at the same time that the film bestowed upon me the knowledge that they intended to kill him. And they didn't milk the inevitable, oh no. They put Hooper in a precarious position and immediately throw the fucking shark at him. Here, fishy, fishy. Here's a delicious dry fish in a box for you. The box is made out of aluminum. Come here, fishy, fishy. And it's one of the few jump scares, other than that one, that can get me every time. And then the shark eats Quint. Number 7, The Bay.
I need to go to the hospital.
Barry Levinson. This is a director that has some amazing titles to his name.
That's a joke, right?
Maybe.
I get it.
I'm an excellent driver.
Yeah, that's good. Come on, come on.
And you won't need a doctor when I'm done. You'll need a priest to pray over your body.
I want the credit. I want the credit. Take it. Goodbye.
And The Bay is unfortunately not one of them. This is Barry Levinson's attempt at a horror film as well as a found footage film. Where it fails spectacularly. However, it does succeed in some areas. There are some truly horrifying moments, and it's just unfortunately the sloppy presentation that sucks. However, one of the shining moments in this film is a very short scene with a deputy and his boss. What really makes this scene scary is the realism. This is where the found footage aspect really works well for the film, and the acting does not detract from it. Also, it's one of the few scary moments in the film that has nothing to do with the parasite directly. It's a man's realization of what is going to happen due to the parasite in his body, and what it looks like to see a person lose all hope.
No! Deputy, put that gun down!
Every time I see this scene, I am horrified by it. The actors really sell it, especially the actor who plays the deputy, and the whole scene makes sense. You see, if he just shoots himself, that will get the chief infected, and it will make the situation worse. It's this kind of hopelessness that I find absolutely terrifying. Number 6, Poltergeist.
They're here.
This is another film that has a lot of scary moments, including a fucked up TV, a fucked up doll, a fucked up tree, and a fucked up face. However, the scariest scene for me was the aftermath scene. After, Tangina gets done with her supernatural janitorial duties.
This house is clean.
The family decides to leave that fucked up house. Yes, Tangina did clean the fucked up house, but they're still leaving the fucked up house. Fuck that house. However, on their last night, the fucked up house decides to get some payback for Tangina's spring cleaning. And that's what you get for not calling the Ghostbusters.
2 in the box!
Ready to go.
We be fast and
They be slow.
Now, I was going to use a new Ghostbusters clip, but by leaving it out, I get to make this joke instead.
Okay, so I don't know if it was a race thing or a lady thing, but I'm mad as hell.
No, it's actually more of a, I don't actually have the DVD, so having access to all your lines is impossible kind of thing. That one's from the trailer. Anyway, what unfolds on their last night in that fucked up house still freaks me out to this day. Everything from the fucked up 4-legged ghost monster thing to the dead bodies floating up in the mud pool. And the whole scene culminates to one of the most memorable lines in the movie.
You son of a bitch, you left the bodies and you only moved the headstones! You only moved the headstones!
Essentially, what you're seeing here is what a haunted house bride should look like. Everything gets fucked up and the house implodes upon itself. Which does beg the question, where'd the house go? Oh yeah, that actually makes sense. Number 5, The Thing. John Carpenter's The Thing is one of my favorite movies of all time. While the effects don't really hold up anymore, it's still very entertaining and creepy. For those who haven't seen the film, basically some Norwegian scientists dig up a frozen alien that can copy itself to look like any organism that it has come in contact with. And this includes mixing organisms.
You see, what we're talking about here is an organism that imitates other life forms, and it imitates them perfectly.
The organism escapes the Norwegians by transforming itself to look like a dog and appealing to the Americans' love for dogs and their hate for fellow human beings. The scene that gets me is when they lock the copy in with the other dogs in the kennels and they immediately know something is up. The pacing and claustrophobic feel of the kennels gives this scene the hopelessness that it needs, on top of some nasty effects to add to the horror value. On top of that, it's killing dogs. Fuck this alien. And while the film doesn't show much in this scene, the use of sound effects and panicked dog footage really sell the horror. It's our first look at the alien and the effects are really bizarre. And since it's killing dogs, this is one of the scenes that gets my blood boiling. It's one of the few times a horror movie can simultaneously make me panic and piss me off. Number 4. Scarface.
You wanna play rough? Okay. Say hello to my little friend!
This is another film that isn't classified as horror, but it does have a scene in it that is, to me, shit-your-pants scary. In this scene, Tony Montana is sent to pick up some cocaine from a Colombian hookup.
I don't like fucking Colombians, okay?
And Tony's hate for Colombians is quickly justified. This is one of those scenes that does not show much and uses the audience imagination effectively. It's also one of the reasons I will never use a chainsaw. Well, there's also this scene to consider. And this scene. And while these films did have scary scenes involving chainsaws, they were almost always used as simply a method of death. To be fair, the same could be said about this scene in Scarface, but there is major plot relevance in this scene in terms of shaping who Tony Montana becomes. And the filmmakers had enough confidence in their audience imagination to allow them to put in the visuals for what a chainsaw blade hitting flesh and bone would look like. And my imagination's awfully vivid, so it's way better than any effects he could have bothered to put in there. Especially since he set the stage right. Number 3, The Shining.
Red rum. Red rum. Red rum.
The whole of The Shining is really unsettling. It never takes a break. You never get a moment of relief. It's just constant building tension. Which is a bit strange if you pay attention to the structure of the film and the total body count. You only managed to kill Scatman Carruthers.
I'm a scat man. I'm a scat man.
And the only other person he successfully kills is himself. It's essentially a horror film with the least effective killer. And as creepy as Jack Nicholson can be in this film,
Here's Johnny.
he doesn't quite hold a candle to these little girls.
Come play with us, Daddy. Forever.
This isn't even a scary line. But since they are dead and Kubrick insists on jump cutting in scenes of their chopped up corpses, the whole moment is fantastically scary. Even the old woman in the tub doesn't hold up to these little girls. She's just a cock-blocking jump scare, which is more annoying than scary. You don't do that to a man mid-stroke. Come on. Talking to you, Game of Thrones.
Wiener, 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 wiener.
The fact is, the scene is about a vulnerable kid in a spooky hotel with psychic powers that is tormented by asshole ghosts. And the fact that it's the two little girls that start the shitstorm of horror is kind of unsettling. They should know better. Number 2, The Walking Dead. Ah, The Walking Dead. A television show that I didn't think would work, but I was very excited to see someone try. I had never heard of Robert Kirkman nor his comic, but when I first saw the advertisement for a zombie apocalypse television show...
Coming to AMC.
I had two thoughts. First thought, a zombie TV show? Really?
We ought to warn people away from the city.
Folks got no idea what they're getting into.
You fucking with me right now.
The Walking Dead series premiere Halloween.
Oh, that's so cool. And then there was that pesky second thought. Wait a minute. This is on cable. How's that gonna work? And more importantly, what's the show gonna be about? Is it just gonna be people running from the Horde season after season? Basically, yes. That is exactly what happens in The Walking Dead. They find a location, the location gets compromised, and then they have to flee to find another location. Which, of course, also gets compromised, and then they have to flee to find another location. Which, of course, also gets compromised.
Don't look back, Carl. Just keep walking.
The heads of the dead go round and round, round and round, round and round. But the show does try to have some messages about the human condition and character development and all that fun shit. And at first glance, the show would seem to be doing a good job keeping its audience off balance. There is this feeling that no one is safe. Until you find out about the term Teflon Glenn. Glenn is by far one of the best characters, and one that has escaped death numerous times, even when it was completely unnecessary. And the show has gotten into a pattern of killing the newer additions to the group while leaving the set core of characters alive. The audience was starting to catch on to the pattern to introduce people only to kill them off later. While Rick and Glenn and Maggie and Carl and all the others kept on kicking. Basically, if your character had interval episodes throughout the season, you were probably on the chopping block. With maybe the exception of Morgan, but I still think he's dead soon anyway. With all this in mind, Season 6 puts Glenn and another character into a really bad situation. The character that's accompanying Glenn has been a consistent pain in the ass for the bulk of the season. Here he fails again, and causes them to get stuck on top of a dumpster surrounded by an inescapable number of zombies. And he does not take it well.
Thank you.
From the moment they were being herded by the Horde, the scene has continual tension building up to one of the most horrifying suicides on television. And not only that, his corpse somehow takes Glenn down with him. And, well... When this episode aired, it created a big debate on whether or not Glenn was killed in this scene. And the direction that the creators eventually went with, I don't agree with it. If you don't consider the aftermath, this is a flawless piece of television. Killing a character this beloved in this manner, not even at the end of an episode, would have been brilliant television and lifted the curse of patterned killing. People would have been pissed, but it would have created a new sense of fear for the entire show. Teflon Glenn getting ripped apart trying to redeem another human being, it's so uneventful that it hits so much harder. I do not like where they went with that scene, and it beats the pants out of that scene with the kid getting ripped apart after they put on their intestinal cloak of invisibility. Ah, shut the fuck up, kid. I'm glad you're dead. And Glenn, I'm not glad you're not dead. Those are a couple of fucked up sentences. Number 1, Candyman.
Surrender to me now.
Now, before people start bitching about, the fact that Aliens or Halloween or Friday the 13th or Nightmare on Elm Street or whatever is not on this list, these are the scenes that scared me personally, okay? Not what the general public finds scary or critics or whatever. And to be perfectly honest, if I ever run into Tony Todd, I'm going to shit myself. This was a film that I saw way too young under false pretenses. It's one of the few memories I have of childhood because I had nightmares about Candyman for months after I saw it. And I refused to use the bathroom unless it was absolutely necessary. Because that's where he lives. Candyman is still a film I can't watch without constantly looking over my shoulder to make sure a smoky-voiced, hook-handed man isn't behind me ready to spit bees in my face. It's not a traditional horror film because the killer, Candyman, is not actually out to kill our protagonist played by Virginia Madsen. And I love Virginia Madsen. She is one of those actresses that can get my ass in a theater seat. But, more to the point, Candyman's motives are a bit esoteric, and he doesn't seem to be interested in killing people at all. It's just something he has to do to give our protagonist some kind of deeper understanding. Then there's the way in which Tony Todd approached the character of Candyman. He is both really creepy and charismatic. His voice is almost a whisper with a hint of seduction, yet it's very terrifying. It's almost as if Candyman is trying to comfort you into his sadistic nightmare.
I am the writing on the wall, the whisper in the classroom. Without these things, I am nothing.
The fear begins to escalate when Virginia Madsen's character first meets Candyman and wakes up at a murder scene. While the introduction scene is not all that scary, the film blurs the lines of reality from that point onward, and we're put through the same due process that Madsen is forced to go through.
Drop it and slide it over to me.
All the while we, the audience, are trying to figure out what the fuck just happened. Is Candyman real? Did he kill that woman? Did she kill that woman? What the fuck happened? And we're feeling incredibly sympathetic to Madsen's character, but at the same time, you can understand the police perspective.
I understand.
There is this sense of madness in every moment because we're not really sure what the whole situation is. And it only gets worse over time. Even though her character's situation gets more dire as the film progresses, this initial scene is by far the most scary because of the confusion. Tony Todd's character design is rather simple. It's just an overcoated dude with a nasty hooked hand. But it's his performance that makes it really scary. Top that off with the confusion and this idea that she might just be going crazy makes this whole scene incredibly fucking terrifying. As the film starts to wind down, Madsen is eventually put into a mental hospital, but by then there's the intrigue of Candyman's motives, either real or imagined. The fear is less because the confusion of whether or not he's going to kill Madsen is pretty much gone. Basically, he's just framing her for murder, and society's the enemy in a sense. So if you haven't figured it out, hopelessness and blurring the lines of reality really freak me out. That and chainsaws. I definitely don't like chainsaws.